70 Retirement Journey with Justin Fort, where it's all about the health, wealth, and freedom you need to live life your way, all the way. And I am Justin. I'm in studio with my trusty sidekick and executive assistant by day, Jennifer. And you can send us your questions and comments to ask@fortwm.com. We've got an amazing show for you today. We're going to be talking about something that some people really hate, others love them, and can't imagine retirement without at least one. But do you really understand what they are and how they work? I'm talking about annuities. And today's guest, author of the book Pensionize Your Nest Egg, knows them inside and out. Today, Alexandra Macqueen will give you true clarity on what an annuity is and is not. And you'll finally know if you're a candidate for using this centuries-old tool in your retirement plan. But first, just wanted to talk to you a little bit about how, this show is different and how we're different at Fort Wealth Management. And our duty to you is a fiduciary duty. We strive to put your interests ahead of our own. We want to make sure that we help you do whatever it is that you want to do with your retirement, but we want to help you do that better if possible. And, I had a gentleman come into my office this last week, and we sat down and we were talking a little bit about his situation, what his concerns were, and where he wanted to have his money invested, and, talking to him about his plans for the future and the concern that he had about the market risk that he was taking and where the markets were headed in the near future. He had about $500,000, and he said, Justin, I just want you to take a look at my plan. He actually had a plan, a printout done by a company, a large brokerage firm. If I were to name the firm, you probably would know who I'm talking about, and you probably have some money with him. But anyways, he had a plan, and I was excited to see that. Usually I don't see plans from this particular broker, but this gentleman did have a plan, and he said, Justin, can you just take a look at what I'm doing and tell me what you think? Well, I started off with first, I said, you're concerned about the market. You said you're concerned about risk of loss. I said, how much money do you want to have at market risk? And he kind of looked at me kind of funny. He said, you mean normal market risk? Or, yeah, I said normal market risk, not Las Vegas risk. There's a difference. He said, well, there is this age 100, or rule of 100, where you take 100 minus your age. I'm 60. So when I do that, I'm left with 40. And they say, according to that rule of thumb, that I ought to have about 40% of my savings, or this $500,000 in at market risk. And I said, well, what do you do with the difference? He said, well, that 60% ought to be safe. And I asked him, well, what's your idea of safe? He said, well, I can't lose it. I said, well, good, because that's my idea of safe. If you want to keep your money safe, you've got to know that wherever you put it, you're going to have the same amount today, tomorrow, and next year, or more. Not going to be less, right? He said, yeah, that's exactly the case. He said, well, take a look at my situation. He had his papers on my conference room table there, and so he kind of pushed them over to me. I looked through them, spent about 2 minutes, and I said, well, John, you're actually 100% at market risk. And he kind of, jaw dropped and eyes bugged, and he said, no. And he scooted over to me, wanted to take a look at his statements like he'd seen them for the first time. And I said, well, it's true. If you look at the funds that you've got and the situation you're at, you're at 100% market risk. I'm not saying that it's super risky or anything like that, but just you're not in a principal protected position. And he said, what's principal protection? I said, well, that's what we in the industry call safe. You can't lose it, not going to lose it. It's going to be the same tomorrow, the next day, and the next year, or more, right? And he just kind of sat back and he said, well, that kind of concerns me. I don't like being in a position where I'm not supposed to be. And I said, well, have you discussed this with your financial professional? He said, well, I thought they knew what I was wanting to do. And of course, he had a plan and everything kind of printed out. And I said, well, what we need to do is sit down and look at your situation, what you want to have done, take a look at what your risk tolerance is, and try to put together a plan where you can achieve your goals, but do it in a way that you're not taking more risk than you're comfortable with. And I, of course, that's when I like to say, welcome to Fort Wealth Management. We'll be more than happy to help you. So, if that's you, if you're in a situation where you're working with somebody and they're not listening to what you're telling them, when you ask for safety, when you ask for less risk, and you're not getting it, or you're being sold, high fee mutual funds, loaded funds, or things of that nature that you know is really not in your best interest, or you're just not so sure about it and you want to get a review, I'd love to have you give us a call at 512-433-6492 and come in the office. I'd love to have you sit down with me and go through what it is that you're most concerned about, what it is that you hope for in your retirement, and help you understand how to position yourself so that you can have the retirement of your dreams. Now, our guest today, Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit about?
Absolutely. Alexandra Macqueen holds the CFP designation and has worked in multiple facets of the wealth management industry in Canada, including as a registered advisor and more recently in market and strategic planning. She is the co-author with Dr. Mashi Milevsky of the book Pensionize Your Nest Egg.
And Alexandra, we're so grateful to have you on the show today. Excited to hear what you have to say about the research that you've done and the books that you've written. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Great to have you. Can you tell us a little bit about, I did receive your book, two books actually. Pensionize Your Nest Egg is one that I've had some time to really go through, and I really enjoyed the read. It's a great read. Can you tell us real quick what an annuity is and kind of help us understand maybe why you wrote that book?
Oh, sure. That's two big questions to get us started. Mm-hmm. So in the most basic terms, an annuity is a product that provides a stream of income to the person who purchased the annuity for as long as they live, no matter how long that might be. So that's your traditional classic life annuity, and that product has been around in one form or another for hundreds of years. Now, there's multiple different variations on an annuity available today. We can see things like deferred annuity, variable annuity. There's lots of different qualifiers that get added to that annuity noun. But like I said, in the most basic terms, an annuity is when I give an insurance company a lump sum of money, and in exchange, they give me an income for as long as I live.
And Alexandra, what is not an annuity?
Anything that doesn't have that lifetime income guarantee.
And Alexandra,
so stock is not an annuity. A 401k is not an annuity. A bond portfolio is not an annuity. A house is an annuity. Your vacation home isn't an annuity.
It's got to be a contract with a provider that guarantees something, right?
It's the guarantee that really takes it from a nest egg, so a pool of savings, into a stream of income.
Alexandra, we've got to go to break. I know I asked you a couple of big questions right up in the beginning there, so I want you to answer those questions when we get back. This is Justin Fort, the show's Retirement Journey, and this is Talk 1370. Talk 1370. You're listening to Retirement Journey with Justin Fort. You can send us your questions and comments to ask@fortwm.com. And we are visiting with Alexandra Macqueen, author of Pensionize Your Nest Egg, How to Use Product Allocation to Create Guaranteed Income for Life. And Alexandra, before the break, I asked you a couple of really big questions, so I apologize for that. Didn't give you enough time to answer those. Could you continue with a little more information as to why you really felt the need to write Pensionize Your Nest Egg?
Well, you got to be careful in asking an author for a short answer to anything. So why did my co-author and I, Dr. Milevsky, write a book on how to create guaranteed income in retirement? And why do we call it Pensionize Your Nest Egg? Well, the starting point is, once upon a time, 40 or 50 years ago, the traditional picture of retirement was very different. You had a work paycheck that might transform kind of magically into a retirement paycheck when you hung up your lunch bucket because you had a defined benefit pension plan. So you would receive an income that was created during your working life from the company you worked for, even if you lived a very long time. But as you know, and all your clients know, those defined benefit pensions have been disappearing, and government programs haven't really stepped in to fill the gap. So people need to do that for themselves. And so you've built up your nest egg, you've diligently saved your dollars, you've asset allocated, you've done all of the work of creating that pool from which the income is going to be drawn. But how do you do it? And we recommend a process called pensionizing, and that's what the book is about.
Yeah, talking about how we can take what the government used to do for us, or our employers used to do for us, and turn that into an income stream from maybe our savings, like 401ks, IRAs, Roths, what have you, is really what you're talking about in this book. And I think the reason why I asked why you wrote the book, and because I really feel like I kind of understand why, in the sense that, a lot of us, a lot of my clients don't understand, at first, why would we ever want to use an annuity when they've heard so much negativity about it. They've read things on the internet, they've talked to their neighbors, and there's all this anecdotal information out there and stories about people that didn't like this or didn't like that. But, from my perspective, I hear it all. When people come into our office at Fort Wealth Management, I get to sit down and listen to their stories. And so I do hear the cases where people say, what, my mother had this annuity and it was great. We're so grateful. She's still alive. She's 91 years old, and she's still getting payments from this annuity. I think we need something like that. Right. And then 2 hours later, I'll have another couple come in and they'll say, we talked to our financial professional. They said we should never own an annuity. You see, so there's just so much misinformation out there. I really appreciate authors like you that take charge and write very informational literature and easy to read, I must say, so that the normal everyday person out there can understand this.
Well, it's interesting when you talk about clients coming in and saying, my mom has an annuity and it's great, but another client saying somebody else had an annuity and I don't want that. I wonder if the second client would say somebody else had a pension and I don't want that. Because if you think about the annuity in this very classic sense, as I described earlier, as a personal pension, then, I think most people think, yeah, a pension is something that I want in retirement. I may not have wanted the job that produced the pension, but I want the pension income in retirement. And this term, pensionize, we came up with this term, pensionize your nest egg. All that means is take some amount of the dollars that you've carefully saved and make sure it's in instruments that protect you against these new risks that you run into at the moment of retirement, risks that aren't present while you're building that nest egg.
That's Alexandra Macqueen, author of Pensionize Your Nest Egg, How to Use Product Allocation to Create Guaranteed Income for Life. You're listening to Retirement Journey with Justin Fort. And, Alexandra, I think you hit the nail on the head when we talk to educators that have a teacher retirement system pension. When I pose the question, hey, would you ever sell that monthly income that you have to someone else? Would you be willing to give that up for maybe a lump sum? We go ahead and put that in your 401k or your IRA, and they always shake their head, no way, we're not going to do that. So what I think most people need to understand is that an annuity, by definition, is just like what you said. It's a guaranteed stream of income, whether it's from a pension, government pension, employer, or maybe even an insurance company, right?
That's right. And it's important to note that, you said it when you repeated the title of the book. We said that use product allocation. We're not recommending that people go out and purchase an annuity at the moment of retirement with all of the dollars that they've saved. I mean, people may still choose to do that, but what we're saying is there's new risks that you're going to encounter in retirement that you didn't have to handle when you were saving, like the risk of outliving your savings. When you're working, you can save more. When you're retired, you don't really have that option because you're not generating new employment income. So you can allocate your savings across different kinds of financial products in retirement to give you a balance of exposure to some risk and the ability to claim some of the benefits. So if the annuity provides income you can't outlive, you think, okay, a part of my nest egg is going to go to buying some of that. so that I can make sure that my basic needs are covered for as long as I live.
Right, and I like to call that our income floor strategy. And we do that
Absolutely.
often in our office, and I really am a big believer in trying to match up retirement income need with sources of money. The income, almost like a mailbox check that comes in from products that are guaranteed, sources that are guaranteed. We want to show our clients how to optimize and maximize Social Security so that they get the most from the federal government from those benefits they have to help increase that income floor. And of course, there's always a time and a place for these different tools when you're trying to get a job done. And I'm a big believer in not coming to the table with an agenda with my clients and saying, oh, well, everyone must have this and everyone must have that, but rather looking at their situation, talking to them about what they want to spend in retirement, what kind of lifestyle they want to have, and then trying to figure out how we're going to allocate across these different product types. Like you said in your book, you talk about how there's a big difference between diversification and product allocation. Can you expand a little bit more on that?
Well, sure. Think about when we're saving, the investment industry, and I'm certainly part of that industry. We've carefully trained people about the frontier, that we can accept a certain level of risk in exchange for a hoped-for level of reward. And we can trace out this frontier to say this portfolio has more risk and a higher expected return, and this portfolio has less risk and therefore a lower expected return. You could have a same or a similar looking frontier in retirement, but the X and Y axes look a little bit different. So in retirement, you're not necessarily trading investment risk and investment return. What you're trading off is a legacy value and a sustainability value. So if you want your income in retirement to be more sustainable, so increasing the chances that it will last as long as you do, you can do that at the expense or the potential expense to your legacy. Right? So if you say, I want a really big legacy value, that's what my nest egg is for, you probably are going to buy less annuities than the person who says, I really want to make sure that I do not run the risk of running out of money. That person buys more annuities.
Yeah, Alexandra, I've seen people come in where they've even done this on their own before having met with me, but I think it's a decent strategy in some cases. What they've done is they've, like you said, pensionized their nest egg to a certain degree, where they purchased some annuities that provide additional income where maybe they didn't have enough Social Security income, which I think most people would agree. There's probably not enough there. Maybe they didn't have such a sizable military pension, or they don't have any other pensions. We know they're, like you said, they're kind of drying up out there. They're expensive to deal with, and companies don't want to have that kind of burden. And in some cases, what I've found people doing is actually pensionizing part of their nest egg, but then using some of the proceeds, those monthly proceeds, to actually buy a permanent life insurance policy to kind of take care of that legacy issue, so they know they're always leaving some money behind no matter what.
Absolutely. And the thing I think personally is cool is that if you like stocks and bonds, when you increase your floor income by using an annuity, you can take more risk with the remainder of the portfolio.
Thank you.
So, for the right person or in the right circumstances, nothing stops you from continuing to be invested as you were pre-retirement. And you may say, because I've secured this floor of income that I know is secure and I know I won't outlive, I'm going to take more risk with the remainder of the portfolio.
And yes, we're talking about using annuities to even potentially take more market risk with some other assets you've got. And this is the Retirement Journey with Justin Fort, where it's all about the health, wealth, and freedom you need to live life your way, all the way. And we'd love for you to send questions or comments. Do you agree with us? Do you not agree? Do you hate annuities? Do you love annuities? Do you have some kind of story to tell you'd like us to know about? You can send those to ask@fortwm.com. And another thing, we've got a couple of copies of this book that Alexandra Macqueen, author of Pensionize Your Nest Egg. We're going to have this in our office. So if you come in the office, you mention that you heard about this on the radio show, we'd be more than happy to give you a copy of this book. It's really a good read. Alexandra, you were saying that you can probably read this book on a short flight and know more than you thought you might be able to understand regarding how to not outlive your money and maybe pensionize your nest egg, right?
Absolutely. We tried to include some ways of thinking about the issues that retirees face that are very, very straightforward and simple, right? Reducing it down to concepts or metaphors that anyone can understand, so that, you read the book, you see it's not got a product focus. We're not telling you what to buy and what not to buy. We are trying to give you a framework or context for approaching those discussions with your advisor.
And Mosh Milevsky is a PhD, and I've got other professors. In fact, I've had another on this show that actually talked to us quite a bit about the efficient frontier, if you will, which is the most efficient type of strategies to use between these, diversified portfolios, stocks, bonds, or annuities, and other PhD professors that teach retirement income are actually talking a lot about what you guys have here in this book. So I really appreciate you being on. And we're going to have to go to break real quick, Alexandra. But when we get back, we've got a couple of other questions that I think everyone's going to want to stick around to listen to. And so this is Justin, Retirement Journey, Talk 1370.
Imagine why. Oh no, we've all got time enough to cry. And I was walking down the street one day, being pushed and shoved by people trying to beat the clock. Oh, I just don't know.
This is Talk 1370. You're listening to Retirement Journey with Justin Fort. You can send us your questions and comments to ask@fortwm.com. And we are visiting with Alexandra Macqueen, author of Pensionize Your Nest Egg, How to Use Product Allocation to Create Guaranteed Income for Life. And, that's what most of our clients want to know how to do, and want to make sure that we address those things in our office. And remember, you can always visit with us. Feel free to give us a call at 512-433-6492. Jennifer often bakes cookies in the office. She's pretty good at it. They're chocolate chip cookies, so I try not to eat too many of them because they're always in front of me. And we'd love for you to come in and ask us about what the right kind of strategies might be for you. And everyone's different. I just want to kind of throw this out there again. Remember, as an investment advisor representative, I hold a fiduciary duty to my clients, and I've got to be careful with what I say on this radio show to make sure that we're not providing you advice. I want you to remember that. These are not recommendations to you. I want to make sure that you understand that any kind of guarantee from any company, an insurance company, is going to be based on the company's claims paying abilities. So you've got to make sure that you understand and are aware of their ratings, their financial situation, and all those things. And we can help you understand those things as well when you come in. You may have an annuity right now. You may not know how or when to use it. You may not understand what's actually guaranteed. I know this because I see often people bring in their policies, and I ask them what it is. They say, well, can you just read it? Because I don't know when the last time was that I actually read it. I may not have ever. I think the guy told me this or that. So annuities can be a great addition to a income floor strategy. It may be right for you, it may not be. But, to really understand that, you need to meet with a financial planner that has your best interests at heart and can actually put together a retirement plan and show you what your efficient frontier might be in terms of how you can position your assets and potentially use annuities, life insurance, and some other products to help you get away from or remove some of the risks related to longevity and risks in the market. So, Alexandra, that's what I do throughout the day with folks. And if you were going to talk to say a potential client of mine, and they said, Justin and Alexandra, I'm just worried about I just don't know that I can trust an insurance company. I get this question often, and I just would like to hear how you might address something like that when we're talking about pensionizing a nest egg and potentially using an insurance company contract to deliver those retirement payments.
Well, there's lots of ways that you can assess sort of your comfort with working with a particular insurance company or not. So you could look at their credit rating, for example. You could look at their history of claims payments. You could ask friends and neighbors if people have dealt with them. I personally, when I want to work with an insurance company, I want them to have been around for a really long time, and I want them to have maintained really good claims paying records and maintain a really great credit rating. But beyond that, that's pretty much where I'm gonna look.
Yeah, and these are highly regulated products. They're usually they are regulated by the states because it falls under the Department of Insurance, and people can find information on Texas Department of Insurance also regarding some of the companies they own or considering working with. So, Alexandra, in your mind, who's a good candidate for buying an annuity?
Well, as I said a couple times, there's a couple of concepts in the book that we hope really break down the conversation into simple, very bite-sized chunks. And one of those concepts is what we call the wealth to needs ratio. So if you have a lot of wealth and your needs from that portfolio are very low, you don't need to annuitize because you already have a very sustainable stream of income. What we look at is for people who they have some wealth and their needs are relatively significant compared to the level of wealth they've got. And why are those people good candidates for annuities or for pensionizing their nest egg? Is because they actually run the risk of running out of money. Mm-hmm. And what the annuity does is takes that risk off your balance sheet and puts it on the insurance company's balance sheet. The insurance company can afford to take that risk because they spread it out over many, many, many people. But you have one retirement and one lifetime. You can't really spread that risk around.
So what's the right age at which to start considering an annuity?
It's a good question. There's lots of research. In fact, my co-author has done some of the really foundational research on when is the optimal time to buy an annuity. And you could start thinking about how am I going to protect my portfolio, maybe at 50 or 55, depending on when you're planning on retiring, and maybe starting to annuitize. I would do it slowly. I would start with a smaller chunk and then add to it over time. I might start at retirement, so let's say 65, and then maybe do another chunk into annuity at maybe 70, and then finish when I'm 75 or 80. That's the thing about adopting a strategy as opposed to focusing on products, is that you say, well, if my strategy is to completely cover my income needs with an annuity over time, for example, then you could say, well, I'm going to start at 60 and finish by 80. I don't have to make one decision once.
And for people that may not want to annuitize, there's so many different products out there now that insurance companies are producing to really cater to the baby boomer mentality. And I know that a lot of my clients, well, I'd say the majority, want to make sure that they are in control of their assets and that they can control when they take money out and of an account, and they know that if they were to die prematurely, that they're not going to be leaving too much money or really any money or whatever it is that they're concerned about to an insurance company before they were ready. And so, we do have options with some insurance companies that we look at that have guaranteed withdrawal riders, if you will, that don't require annuitization, but still kind of act like an immediate annuity or an annuitization type feature, but allows for the account to continue to grow in either a fixed account or an indexed account. And we know that there are variable annuities out there that do things that are somewhat similar. And so, there are a lot of options out there. And what would you say, Alexandra, if asked, what product changes or features out there that exist that you really like?
That I like or that I would like to see? That
you'd like to see more of?
Well, it's really interesting to think about what if you could buy a rider on its own, for example. Now, this isn't something that exists, but maybe it will come to exist. So what if I say, I like my portfolio, I like how I'm managing it, or I like how it's being managed, and all I'd like is to add a lifetime income rider to my existing portfolio, as opposed to moving the assets over to the insurance company. So that's something that I wonder if we'll see in the coming years and decades.
That would definitely be very interesting to see an insurance company coming out with something that was just stripped bare, like you're talking about, to provide that guaranteed income. And when at the beginning of the show, I talked a little bit about a gentleman that was concerned about market risk, and obviously, some of these annuities, they're backed by the insurance companies, and we can consider them obviously principal protected if they're guaranteed to be such, and so that can make up a part of the portfolio, and at the same time, the safe money part of the portfolio. And at the same time produce much more of the income that's needed, or take the load off of those riskier assets that are sitting out there in the market. And, right now we're visiting with Alexandra Macqueen, author of Pensionize Your Nest Egg, How to Use Product Allocation to Create Guaranteed Income for Life. And this is the Retirement Journey Show, where it's all about the health, wealth, and freedom you need to live life your way, all the way. We're talking about how to use annuities, products that are available out there, maybe some different strategies. And Alexandra, you used the word pensionize, which is also the title of your book. And just, again, I know we've kind of talked a little bit about this, but can you explain again to our listeners what you mean by pensionize?
It's really nothing more than creating a personal pension. So you and I talked earlier about people, maybe it's a teacher or somebody working in government who has that nice defined benefit pension they retire to. Pensionizing is when you do that yourself, but you totally control it. You can control when and how much and with whom.
And would you ever buy an annuity?
Sure, I actually expect to. So I'm one of those, the majority of workers in Canada anyways, and I'm pretty sure in the U.S. as well, who are not going to retire with a defined benefit pension plan from an employer. So I'm expecting that at some point in my own retirement journey, I'll be turning to an insurance company and saying, hey, you can provide some lifetime guarantees, and I want some of that.
And, there is a clock. If you're thinking about whether or not you should own an annuity, just know that there are time frames that the insurance companies have where they're willing and able to provide you with their products, and then there's time frames really related to your age where they're not going to be willing to provide those. And so there's kind of this spectrum. You may be too young, you may be too old. And it is dependent in some respects on the state's regulatory system and how they view these things, but it's important to have a plan from the beginning. I can't stress that enough. An annuity may or may not be right for you. Just know that when you visit with me, I don't come to the table with an agenda. I come to the table looking at how we can help you do what you want to do, but do it better. Maybe we can achieve those same results with less risk. Could we use or should we use an annuity? Just know that we do a great job of trying to shop the world of these different products and tools out there, because we work for you, not for the insurance company or not for a broker somewhere. And Alexandra, we're going to go to a quick break, but I want you to come back and we're going to ask you a couple of questions about your book, how people can get a hold of it, and how they can learn a little bit more about what you guys are working on there. And this is Justin, Retirement Journey, Talk 1370. This is Talk 1370. You're listening to Retirement Journey with Justin Fort, where it's all about the health, wealth, and freedom you need to live life your way, all the way. And I'm Justin, and I'm here in studio with my sidekick and executive assistant by day, Jennifer. You can send us questions and comments to ask@fortwm.com. We're got a special guest today, Alexandra Macqueen, author of Pensionize Your Nest Egg, How to Use Product Allocation to Create Guaranteed Income for Life. And Alexandra, before the break, we were talking about your book. How can people get a hold of that book?
Oh, easiest way is just Amazon.com.
Pretty easy answer. So there it is, Amazon.com, and I would encourage you to read it. I really enjoyed it. It's got all the science-based, math-based arguments to it that really make sense. It really aligns very well with everything that I've learned in my training and in the courses I've taken and what I see in reality. But it's done in such a way that you can read it and it should be very understandable to you. So, Alexandra, we're so grateful for you to be on the show today. We'd love to have you back. If you'd be willing to come back some other time, we'd love to have you back and talk more about the books that you're writing and the great work you're doing. And thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Well, we talked a little bit about fiduciary standard, and we talked about how this show's different. And, we've got to be careful with some of the things that we say on this show because I'm a licensed investment advisor. I can't provide advice to you over the phone, over the radio waves here, because I just don't understand your situation. And I would love to give you advice and give you recommendations, give you my thoughts, but I'd have to visit with you, and we'd have to have a short conversation at least. I'd be able to understand what it is that you're trying to do and where you are. I'd love to give you the help that you need from a fiduciary capacity. So, Jennifer, there's some things that we can say and we can't say, or should say and shouldn't say on the radio because of our licensing. And remember, not everybody on the radio that gives you advice, talks about products, are actually licensed. And so they can kind of say whatever they want. But here we've got to be a little bit more careful with what it is that we say and we don't say. Can we talk about or have testimonials, have someone come to our seminars or on our show saying how great we are? As a fiduciary, I can't. Can we say how great you are, or you are yourself? Sorry. At home, but not here. No. As a fiduciary, I can't. All right. How about guaranteed you won't lose money even if the stock market crashes? As a fiduciary, I cannot. Guaranteed to make money? Cannot. You are trustworthy, a trusted advisor, or I trust you. As a fiduciary, I can't. Can we discuss real-life cases where we help people? As a fiduciary, I can't. Okay. Can we make recommendations on the air for stock or other products? Again, I cannot. All right. Can we say that any product is universally and absolutely good for everyone? As a fiduciary, I cannot. Can we say that any product is universally and absolutely bad for everyone? Again, I cannot. So it sounds like I can't say very much, but somehow that's what it looks like. I've been able to fill up most of this hour. So what, there are things that we can say. Okay. So what can we say? We can educate. We can provide conceptual analysis. Okay. I can talk in generalities. I can tell you about things that concern our clients. Mm-hmm. I can talk about different types of products, investments, and strategies, just like we did today. Right. As long as we talk about the pros and the cons, and there are usually pros and cons to everything, because every choice has an alternate option or another choice associated. And if we discuss rewards, we must also disclose risks. Mm-hmm. We can provide ideas direct to you, direct you to resources and answer questions as long as everything we do is in your best interest. Right. And especially, we want to make sure no other listener assumes our answers constitute advice for any particular reason. We don't want people taking our discussions as advice because they could act on it and hurt themselves. And we don't want to be responsible for that. We don't want to hurt anybody. Correct. We want to make sure that this show is helpful to you. It provides the information that you need to make better decisions and have a better retirement. It is about the health, wealth, and freedom you need to live life your way all the way. And we do hold those licenses, and so we are in the thick of things. When we visit with our clients, we're understanding what's going on out there. We've got our ears to the ground. And so we wanted to have this show so that we can be able to talk to you in your car or at home or wherever it is that you are and give you a little bit of our insights into what's going on in there and hopefully maybe give you a little bit of information that can help you. Of course, we would love for you to come in and visit with us in person. And you can do that by calling our office at 512-433-6492. And, we've got a cookie baking machine. Jennifer is great at that. I talked about that earlier, but they're really great. And, bring in your statements if you've got them. If you've got Social Security questions, we do run our Social Security seminars. We'd love for you to attend those. I know we've got one
next week, actually. Yeah,
next week.
Yes, but we're actually booked for that. Our next one is in June the 23rd and 25th at Steiner Ranch. So you can actually RSVP by calling the 1-800-769-1614, or you can also go to the events tab on our website at fortwm.com.
Quick thing in the news. This is from Mason Broswell from investmentnews.com. This has to do with that fiduciary duty we were just talking about, and how some professionals out there, some institutions just don't have that duty, and you need to know the difference. And the government's been kind of pushing brokers and other individuals to really put their clients' interests first. And we've known the president has talked a little bit about this earlier this year, and there's really a lot of force in this direction. And this piece from Investment News is talking about the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, or FINRA, ordered LPL Financial to pay $11.7 million in fines and restitution for what is deemed widespread supervisory failures related to sales of complex products, according to a settlement letter released Wednesday. And this article is dated May 6, 2015. And it goes on to say that from 2007 to as recently as April, LPL failed to properly supervise sales of certain investments, including certain exchange-traded funds, variable annuities, and non-traded real estate investment trusts, and also failed to properly deliver more than 14 million trade confirmations to customers, according to FINRA. So, why does that matter to you? Well, you may have some accounts somewhere. You're working with somebody that's probably very nice. They're probably very knowledgeable. But in some cases, when they work for a broker, they work for a company, and they're not independent. In a lot of ways, they serve their broker first, and they have to put the interests of their employer ahead of yours, by nature of their contract. Even though our government now would like that to change, and of course we all would agree that putting your interests ahead of that of the broker that you're putting your life savings with is probably a good idea. That just hasn't happened yet. It's not happening in a lot of cases. So it's important to understand who you're working with and who they're serving and whose interests are ahead of whom, and to make sure that your assets, as hard as this retirement thing is, it's very difficult. I had a gentleman come in recently, and he sat down, and we'll call him Bill. And Bill said, Justin, I've been working with this person for years and years and years. And he said, I like the gal, really good person, very personable. Can you take a look at the funds I've got? And I flipped open his statements, and I looked, and I saw all these A share funds and this and that. And, he had no idea, and I don't know how he didn't have an idea, but he had no idea that the majority of the funds that he owned were all loaded funds. And loaded means that he's paying a commission. In his case, it was about 5.75% to actually buy those funds up front. There are back-end loads where you pay them on the way out, kind of like call them like a good kick in the pants. See you later. Thanks for the 5.75% of all your money. So he wasn't aware of that. And when I pointed that out to him, he said, well, you mean I've been paying that the whole time? When so-and-so calls me up and says, hey, you know what? I've got this other fund. It's been doing real well. I think we need to move you over to this fund. She's been getting a commission on that. I said, well, of course. Yeah. And, I don't believe in, we don't do that at Fort Wealth Management. We don't have loaded funds. I don't believe that anyone should really have to pay a load, really ever. I don't believe in that. I think there's other ways for you to invest your money. It's hard enough, I told Bill. I said, it's hard enough, obviously, for you to be able to afford retirement. You don't have a pension. He didn't. You have Social Security. It's going to be difficult enough to defer that to 70 so you can get the most out of that. But you don't have any other pensions. You've just got this, hit about $650,000. You can't afford to be giving 5.75% of this money to someone else, and on top of that, paying internal expenses and fees. along with really, when I looked at the situation he was in, looked a lot like not so well of a diversified portfolio. I'll just put it that way. So even though he's paying a lot in fees and taking quite a bit of risk, he's really not getting a lot for what he's putting on the table. So, of course, I'm happy to help Bill and everyone else that has a similar situation, and really show you what you own, what you could own, and why I believe the way I believe. Because really, you need all the help you can get when it comes to preserving your assets, protecting them from market risk. The last thing you need to be doing is using inefficient tools or products, bad annuities that just don't work so well, or they're not suited for your situation, or taking more risk than is necessary. These kinds of things are really what you don't need more of. You need the right kind of advice, and that's what we're doing every day with our clients there at Fort Wealth Management. Remember, you can call us at 512-433-6492. You get to talk to Jennifer. You get to come in. Yay. You get to have a good conversation, eat some cookies, and we're going to go to break. And when we get back, I'm going to talk a little bit about our upcoming seminars, tell you how you can get in touch with us there, maybe reserve your spot before it fills up, because they are very popular. And again, this is Justin, Retirement Journey, Talk 1370.
Time is the asset. Time is the season. Time ain't no reason. Got no time to slow. Time everlasting. Time to play B-side.
Talk 1370. You're listening to Retirement Journey with Justin Fort, where it's all about the health, wealth, and freedom you need to live life your way, all the way. And I'm Justin, and I'm here in studio with my sidekick, Jennifer. You can send us questions and comments to ask@fortwm.com. And, before the break, we were talking a little bit about fiduciary duty. And not to pick on LPL Financial from that, from the Investment News article alone. They're not the only broker dealer that experiences these types of issues. But there's another piece actually. This is Bloomberg News, and it's titled "J.P. Morgan Under Investigation Over Fund Sales." And it says the SEC, other authorities seeking information about the bank's use of proprietary products in its wealth management unit. What is a proprietary product? Well, a proprietary product effectively is, let's say, a fund that is produced by the seller of the fund, right? So, for example, you may work with an institution, XYZ, but they use funds A, B, C from a different fund manufacturer. Okay, that would be a non-proprietary. Well, if you're working with a company like, in this case, J.P. Morgan, and you're actually being sold J.P. Morgan funds by maybe a fiduciary, that there could be somewhat of a conflict of interest. Of course, you can understand that. So it says that it goes on to say that J.P. Morgan Chase and Company received subpoenas and inquiries about the Securities and Exchange Commission, from the Securities and Exchange Commission and other regulators about how it sells its own mutual funds and other proprietary products. The SEC, other government authorities, and a self-regulatory organization are seeking information about the bank's use of proprietary products in its wealth management business. The New York-based company disclosed Tuesday in a regulatory filing. The lender said it's cooperating. The fiduciary standard, the probe includes a review of pensions and other accounts that hold the bank to a so-called fiduciary standard, which obligates it to put clients' financial interests ahead of its own, these people say. So it's important to remember that the standard that someone has for you, if it is a fiduciary standard, maybe their proprietary funds are the best. But if they're not, there could be some issue with that. If there's a conflict of interest, with something that we do with you, I have to disclose that ahead of time. I have to tell you, look, I'm going to be compensated this way or that way. Here's your fees. I have to tell you ahead of time what those are and be transparent about that. I can't tell you, hey, you ought to have this thing. I'm not going to tell you what the fees are until you own it. That's very important to remember.
Right. I
did have a couple recently this week. They said, well, how much are we going to have to pay for our, visit with you? Of course, the consultation's free. Mm-hmm. It's free when you come in. But if we put together a plan with you and you manage things for us, what do you think the cost is going to be? And I said, boy, I just don't know yet because I haven't built a plan. I don't know. It depends on what we're trying to do. But I do know this. I will tell you, and I will tell all my clients ahead of time, well in advance, if there's ever a cost or a fee with anything associated with anything that I recommend recommend to you in your plan, you're going to know what that fee is and have the ability to say yay or nay, you do or don't want to do this. And of course, my job is to also show you the pros and the cons. So I want what's best for you. And by doing that, we've been successful. And we're going to continue to do that. We're continue to put our clients' interest ahead of our own. In an ocean of options out there where that's not the case, at least you know that at Fort Wealth Management you can get that from us. So anyways, Jennifer, can you give us a little bit of information on how someone can get a hold of us for the next seminar?
Yeah, next seminar in June. That'll be to register 1-800-769-1614, or again, our events tab on at our website, fortwm.com.
We'd love for you to come. We're going to be talking about Social Security and how that applies to your retirement assets, how you can create an income floor. We might even talk a little bit about annuities, in fact. And, you can stick around after. We'll have food, and I'll be there to actually answer your questions personally. So, next week, whether you realize it or not, whether you're a business owner or individual, the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare, is or soon will impact your life. Many of its implications are just coming to light, raising more questions than ever. Josiah Alice, president and co-founder of Design Health, is here to help. Health insurance is an important part of your financial plan, and so is your freedom of choice. Next week, see what you may have been missing in Obamacare and how to prosper within this new framework. We'll love to have you then. It's 12:30 again, as usual, Saturday. And we want to thank our guest for coming on, Alexandra Macqueen, and our producer, Matt Alvarez. Thank you so much. And to all of you listening, thank you so much for sharing the good word about Retirement Journey and inviting your friends and family to listen in. And remember to like us on Facebook. Thank you so much for all that. Our show's been growing by leaps and bounds. We're so excited to be here, and we'll see you next week. Again, this is Justin Fort, Retirement Journey, and this is Talk 1370.